Hello again, it's Ken Rethmeyer. This is episode 14 in the Leading for Value podcast that I've been recording both video and audio to provide you all a sense of my perspective and what I published in my book as the key core models, four of them, along with the behaviors and the value systems that support them. Because I believe that it's a multidimensional effort in terms of leadership development. I saw it in my own practice. I saw it in my own leadership roles. And then in my consulting, especially working with a number of different kinds of companies in a variety of industries. And it was the work that I was doing with the European Union multidisciplinary healthcare team when we developed the leadership excellence in public health in Europe competency model. And that's when we started talking more about it's not just the behaviors, it's the values that underscore those behaviors, and they provide the platform upon which all leaders work. And I think it's important that we use that as a way of looking at how does this play out when you are doing that in your own organization. So I'm going to walk through fairly quickly and give you sort of the overview of the global values leadership model and the behaviors that are associated with that, both in terms of our own personal values as well as the organizational values. And if you think about when you're out there recruiting people and you're bringing them into your organization and the onboarding process, for example, it's really important that those people understand the behaviors, organizational behaviors that are really important, that make a big difference in the organization and differentiates us from everybody else who are our competitors. And that's very important. Now, the second component of this episode is going to show you very quickly a 2x2 table approach of looking at it from your own perspective and your own self-assessment in terms of the importance of those values versus your capabilities as you perceive them. And again, it's just an idea for you to play with. I hope you will do it because I found it very effective in working with the leaders that I did during my years, and also with the people that I worked with from other organizations. So let's get started. Two components, global values leadership. The personal leadership values are on the left side and juxtaposed to the organizational imperatives. And the organizational imperatives deal more with what is the vision, values, goals, and objectives of the organization. And that's really important because that'll sort of lay out, and you would tailor those to your own industry, by the way. The ones on the left, the personal leadership values, those are more universal. I found those to be consistent in virtually every organization I worked with, both in terms of consulting and when I had an opportunity to have a dialogue with people on the speaker circuit. It gave me an opportunity to ask questions about what do they personally value most in their organization for them as leaders. And then the organizational imperatives, you want to have a good, solid correlation between the two in order to make sense. So let's go to the next slide and sort of talk a little bit more about it. To amplify, the personal leadership values are well documented in a vast variety of papers and literature about leadership. Now, the second point here, though, is that the post-pandemic environment of our workforce and the organizations has changed dramatically as a result of what happened during those 2 years. So as a consequence, as leaders and organizations, we're seeing more and more organizations saying, we want you to get back into the office. We'll take it slowly to get you back used to being that way. And in some cases, believe it or not, some of these people may have only seen each other on Zoom, never in person. So it's going to be an opportunity for team building and using the leader's opportunity to, and his behavior or her behavior that influences the solidarity of the team and its performance. And that's very important. On the right side of the diagram, you'll see, and these are specifically ones that we developed as a result of looking at public health in Europe. And again, if you're in a oil industry, you're in a sales industry and in some kind of product, if you're in some kind of other industrial organization, you would tailor those imperatives to how they fit to your company or organization. And again, they tend to operationalize what you're trying to achieve in the organization. And when you do that, it makes sense. I learned that when I worked with Disney. The Disney at that time, and quite a while ago, was very focused on the customer and making sure that if we were in costume and we were on stage, that we put the customer first, regardless of anything else. And so the organizational imperatives at Disney were one. When I worked in the Navy, served in the Navy for 22 years, those organizational imperatives were driving how we operated. And then at post-Navy and my consulting and working in 3 different environments, financial services, that would be the same thing. And it also helps to create a way of providing alignment throughout the organization. So everybody knows what his or her position is and how you contribute in your own role. Now, what does that brand framework look like? This is sort of the interesting piece. The values are a combination of both driving that force, social values and public health values. Why do I say that? It's because the social values, and I saw this during my work with Project Hope in 7 of the Eastern European countries, that the social values tended to vary from one country to the next. So when we were doing our educational program, and in this case it was healthcare management, we had to make sure that we worked with the sponsors in the local country to find out what do they value in their healthcare system and their leaders, the social values that drive the process. And then secondly, what are those public health values? And the whole idea is that when they're highly correlated, then you will have a consistent set of global values leadership, bottom line. And the results, as I have mentioned, I think before in one of the other podcasts, is as a leader, we're looking for 2 things. Obviously, we're looking for tangible results. And those are results with meaning. Numbers on the board, scoring wins when you can, getting the best sales as you can, and in consulting, ensuring that what you're helping them do, that they actually can achieve and they do achieve. Very important. And then those that are meaningful are more about your personal value. So when you get home at night, if you'll pardon that expression, you take off the uniform of the day, whether it's a suit and tie, a golf shirt, or whatever, it doesn't matter, that you feel good about what you accomplished and what you contributed to the organization or the group of people you're working with, because that's very, very important. And I think something we don't pay enough attention to. Now, the last component of this particular episode has to do with the a self-assessment. And I will once again create a handout, set it up so you can download all these and use it for your own purposes. Or if you want, buy the book, it's in there as well. But the bottom line is that we developed an assessment tool that worked both for the other behaviors and domains of the leadership model, but in particular this one. And it's 2 dimensions in terms of how important are these values and what is my personal capability in achieving those. Do I do them, so to speak? And the whole idea is you take each of the personal values, look at it, and you score it, put it in one of the boxes. And the bottom line is that the plotting helps you to sort of see yourself and where you feel good about things and where you need to have more attention, perhaps. And one of the things I would recommend when you're doing this kind of exercise is as you do a self-assessment, sort of project out to your team or organization, say, what do they expect? Do they see this more important than I do? Because if they do, then you as a leader have to work within that context. Again, very simple, very straightforward, but I guarantee you when I use this with my consulting practice, some of the leaders I used were able to use them with, it worked out very nicely, and they found themselves learning a great deal. So, short episode 14. This sort of ends the first chapter. We're going to move into chapter 15, the chapter 2 in episode 15. And that's the one where I focus on the concept of explore, expand, excel. And I hope you join me there. And again, I sincerely appreciate your participation. If you have any comments, please write them down. If you have questions you want me to answer, write them down on something, or send it to my email address that you find on the rethmeyergroup.com and therethmeyergroup.com. So looking forward to seeing you next time. And I'm going to end with the statement that I started with on the first episode, and that leadership is having the courage to act, to do what is right, not to wait and see, not to wait and hope, but the courage to get involved now. Unknown author, what great words of wisdom. And believe me, every time I worked with an organization, that reminded me of my role and my contribution when I was working the best I could. See you next time. Enjoy. If you have questions, let me know.